Welcome back to the High Vibe Honey podcast, this space where identity meets evolution, where personal power meets purpose, and where we collapse time to step into our next level. And today's guest is a woman who is flipping the script on what it means to truly heal. TMR is CEO of TMR and Co., a gut healing agency on a mission to help women get high on healing. They're not here to throw another elimination diet at you or ask you to gaslight your body into submission. They exist to remind you that true healing is an inside job. With a powerful blend of science and somatics, Tia's agency guides women back into deep connection with their gut, physically, emotionally, and energetically, so they can stop surviving and start fully thriving. And this conversation is for the women out there who know their body is trying to speak to them, and you are ready to finally listen. So get ready for some truth bombs, some nervous system wisdom, and a whole new perspective on healing from the inside out. Tia, I am so happy to have you here on the podcast. Welcome.
Oh, I'm so hyped to be here. I just got chills when you were doing that lovely intro.
Yeah, I think there are just so many women who are coming to this space of realization around the communication from their body and also escaping this gaslighting medical system of, okay, well, that's just how you live now. That's just what your body does. And you don't have to live that way. So I can't wait to have this conversation.
I know it's going to be juicy.
Yes. So I would love to know what really started your journey into this world.
Yeah, so okay, rolling back the clock to I'd say about 7 years ago, I was your high-flying event producer, organizing huge events globally, and I was in that mode of do, push, 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 achieve, achieve, achieve. I was gunning for that pay rise, I was gunning for that promotion, and my body was breaking. So I went through essentially about 5 years of chronic vaginal thrush. I was dealing with cystic acne. I had IBS. I had food sensitivities, chronic bloating. I also couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And I just was on this mission, like to figure out what was going on with me. Me and my now husband, like we were working with the top doctors across the world. I was going back and forth to gynecologists in particular. That was like my main kind of entry point in because I was like, well, this is affecting my entire life because this was so recurrent for me. And I kind of just put the gut issues on the back burner, not realizing it was connected. And so the linchpin and the key point of like my story was I had just come off a huge event and I was living in Dubai. I'm still living in Dubai at the time. Come off a huge event. I had worked maybe 2 weeks straight doing 14-hour days on site. I came back, I got into bed, and the next morning I woke up just literally screaming in pain. And my stomach, it was as if someone had literally like lit a fire in my stomach. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God, my body is broken. I'm dying. I thought to myself, this is it, I'm dying. And I crawled out of bed because I literally couldn't stand up. I crawled out of bed and I had to get into a taxi because my hubby was out picking his cousin up at the airport at the Crack of Sparrows. And I got myself to A&E and I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is going on? I remember sitting in the waiting room, like hunched over, just bawling my eyes out. And the doctor took me in. They pumped me full of antispasm meds. They pumped me full of just medication to just stop what was going on in my system. And then they took me in for a gastroscopy and they said, oh, you've got 6 stomach ulcers. It's nothing to worry about.
Mm.
And I just had this sobering moment where I was just like, how are we being so gaslit that
Mm.
6 holes in my intestines is something that's normal and something that, a 28-year-old woman should have?
Yeah.
And I went down, I left, and I I remember just being like, okay, la la la, I'm just gonna keep going. And I took the PPIs, the meds, the everything that they gave me, and I kept going and I kept going. And it wasn't until 2020 when the world stopped. I was put on, half of my hours, and I was sitting on my balcony and I was still dealing with all of these issues. And this was like the moment where I was just like, oh my God, like something needs to change. I had done a yoga practice and I sat there and like the whole world was quiet and I was on my balcony and just this resounding message of Tia, what are you doing with your life? It was
Mm.
like something needs to change. You cannot keep living like this. And I walked out into the living room with my hubby, just eyes streaming, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I cannot continue this process of working in the corporate world, breaking my body, dealing with all of these things. Like, I have to find a way back to healing. And so we sat down, we organized my exit strategy out of the events world. And then I just went on this mission to just heal my body. And I became a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, and then I went in down the road of like, okay, I'm going to become a health coach and I'm going to learn about nutrition. And then I learned about lab testing, and I just started to unfold from there and really working towards the inner work piece as well for me was like the patterning and the behaviors that I was constantly cycling in terms of like working my ass off to get to Friday and then sinking a bottle of wine, to get myself through the weekend and then getting up and doing it all again, which is, what you kind of do in your 20s. Like, it was what I thought. And it was just this perpetual cycle of like, why do I constantly feel like I need to push myself? Where is that actually coming from? And what was the root of it? And like, what was
Mm.
actually driving these patterns and behaviors that were sabotaging my body? So that was very much like the road. And that's when then I started to build my team, build the company. We launched into, the detoxing world and the gut healing space with nutrition. And now we've really evolved into the somatics piece as well, where it's like, okay, there's this missing piece then for so many clients where it's like,
Yeah.
if we don't actually dive into the emotional piece and start to shift stuff out of the body,
Hmm.
we're just going to keep relapsing over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
that's where my story was really born, and continues to grow as life throws things at me.
I love this story. And also, I think just so many people are going to relate to this idea of the hustle and grind in corporate and then realizing, yeah, my body is not feeling so good with this. But as you say, you go to the doctors and almost this is what irritates me about the healthcare system is that it's not healthcare, it's sick care, but
Yeah.
it's almost as if by giving you a name of something that you're dealing with solves the problem. Aha, we've got some stomach ulcers here. Job done, get it me. And that doesn't help you to resolve the problem. It just gives you a name for it. They might give you something that masks the symptoms of it. But until you go to the root and deal with the underlying cause of
Mhm.
what it is that you're experiencing, as you say, it will find its way to just keep showing up.
Yeah.
And in some ways your body is communicating with you, hey, we need to fix
Yeah.
something here. We want you to change something. So how amazing it
Totally.
is that you've created an agency that supports women into decoding that message from the body and really working at the root.
Yeah, totally. And like just underlying that point that you just made about like we can become very attached to a diagnosis.
Hmm.
That was a really big part, became part of my identity.
Yeah.
I would take ownership of, oh, I've got IBS. Oh, I'm gluten intolerant. Oh, I'm dairy intolerant. Oh, I've been told I have these things. And what I, now know is that I created almost this safety within the diagnosis.
Hmm.
Ooh. And like oftentimes when I share that with clients, it's like there's a part of me that was attached to that because I was actually benefiting, right? Because there was a part of me that was like, okay, well, if I'm sick, I'm still going to get attention. I'm still going to get love. I'm actually going to get more love. And that
Yeah.
was a really, really big part of my journey. And that stemming obviously back into childhood of like, so many of us want that diagnosis because we want the validation,
Yeah.
right? We want to be like, tick in the box. Cool. I have X, Y, and Z. And therefore, I'm not going to do anything about it because this is this is what I have. When actually it's like if we're born into this world and we don't have any issues, we've developed them along the way because something's fallen out of balance. So
Mhm.
is that not the most empowering thing in the world to be able to go, hmm, if I was birthed and born into this world healthy, then surely my natural state is healthy. So what is it that's pulled me out of balance? And that was another really big piece of it for me as well.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And whether it be a medical condition or anything else, if you want to get stuck with it, be identified with it. If you want to be stuck with, I'm unhealthy or I'm poor or I'm not good at business or I'm like whatever it is, if you identify with that, congratulations, it's yours for as long as you want to keep it.
Totally.
So yeah, rewriting that story is really powerful. I wanted to ask you
Totally.
around this idea of, we talk about don't gaslight your gut into healthy. Can you unpack what that means and how women tend to do that without realizing?
Oh, I just feel like everybody gets sucked into the trends. You know, I feel like everybody and their mother right now is buying Simprove and is, you know, really doing these parasite cleanses over the counter and like they're just putting in these quick fixes and I feel like they are it's gaslighting people because it's like we're sold this miracle cure, we're sold this quick fix. Like you go on TikTok, someone's selling green juice as a cure to all of these issues. And we
Mm,
fall into that. We fall into, oh, okay, well, so and so has told me this, therefore it must mean. And we're actually gaslighting ourselves because we're actually not really in the truth of it because we don't want to take ownership. We don't want to take ownership of the fact that we are the solution. And so we very much externalize things and gaslight ourselves in the process, thinking that everything else around us is going to fix us. When actually we have to look at, like, okay, well, where am I actually out of balance? As opposed to constantly pedestaling all of these fixes that are out there.
yeah, I love that. I think our work is so aligned in that way of understanding that you get to be the solution to anything that you're experiencing. And it can be very easy to say, well, I'm experiencing the thing, therefore I need a business coach to tell me what to do. Therefore I need this
Yeah.
parasite cleanse. Therefore, and
Yeah,
I'm not saying don't do those things, but also
totally.
own your own role in the situation and own
Totally.
your own role in being the solution to your
Yes.
situation as well. So it's not necessarily like a this or this, but it could be a yes and, but you find your own
Yeah.
way of healing in a way more empowered way when you own your role in your own body, your own situations.
Totally. And this is the thing, we still do parasite cleanses because we also
Yeah.
have to look at the fact that like we can't, we can't like mindset our way out of an infection in our gut.
Hmm.
Like we can't meditate our way out of parasites or candida overgrowth or whatever. But ultimately, we can't, we have to be able to cleanse that, but we also then have to be looking at the other way. It's like a top down, bottom up approach, right?
Yeah,
Where we
yeah.
have to be looking at both of those angles so that we're like, oh, okay, well, the body's fallen out of balance. Okay, so why has the body physically fallen out of balance? And then
Hmm.
how has the woman herself fallen out of balance? And
Yeah.
then that's where those empowerment pieces come. Whereas most people are like,
Oh, I think we've frozen Tia. Let's see if this comes back. While I'm waiting for Tia to reconnect, I really enjoyed what she was sharing about both the top down and the bottom up approach, which is this combination of the science and the somatics. We lost
yes.
you for a moment, but you are back now.
Yeah, where did I
She's here. She's here. So yeah, I love what you're sharing about this combination of
go?
this 360 approach to holistic healing.
It's the only way it's going to work.
Yeah.
because like we have to we have to ultimately become someone new. We have to ultimately shift who we're being if we
Hmm.
want to welcome in the level of health that we really desire. And
Hmm.
I remember that that was such a big point for me for a really long time, was like I wasn't actually being the embodiment of someone who has a healthy body,
Yeah.
right? I was so stuck in the, oh my God, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and I need to fix this and I need this supplement and I need this that like I was dysregulating my nervous system even more. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the biggest pieces as well is like, 99.9% of the women that land in my world are chronically dysregulated.
Mm.
They're high achieving women. They're
Yeah.
lawyers or they're CEOs or they're event producers, like, and
Yeah.
they're just running on fumes. And so we have to be looking at that piece of the puzzle and not just to use that regulate your nervous system stuff when people are like, what does that even mean?
Yes.
Right? People, like so many
Especially,
people on socials are like, regulate your nervous system. And people are like, huh?
yeah. Well, so I just sit and breathe for a bit. Boring. No, I'm too busy. That's what you hear a lot of, as an ex-lawyer here,
Yeah.
I imagine, I've worked with a lot of these people as well, and I've been one of those people. And it almost is like the toxicity in that culture leads you into believing that that's normal, that there's no way you could possibly slow down because then the world is going to crumble. There's no way you could approach your world differently because that's just the world that you're in. And it's actually not true. Being able to see that from the outside, I think I could go in and work in law again if that's something that I wanted to do, which it isn't, but do it from a much more healthier space with more balance. It is possible, but when you are blinded by your own patterns and your own beliefs that you've structured around that job or that um, lifestyle, it can be difficult to break free without additional support in rewiring some of those beliefs and changing the patterns. Because as you say, a lot of people, they want to be healed, but they don't want to do
Yeah.
the healing. And then it's this
Yes.
idea of learning how to, you can't change and still be the same. So things are going to change,
Yes.
which again is
Yes.
scary to your nervous system. But yeah, would
Yeah.
you speak more to that around the nervous system piece as well? I think that would be really powerful for people.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, in terms of the nervous system, like a lot of the work that I do is I'm trained in emotional release work,
Mm.
right? So, for so many of us, and I was talking to a one-on-one client about this today as well, is like she she thinks that she always has a lot of stuff to do, and so she comes at it with this frantic energy when actually there's not a lot of stuff that she needs to do. She has a lot of support. She has like a fairly chilled life, but it's who she's being behind that. So it's the patterning that she grew up with in terms of her childhood. And she was sharing with me today that like, oh, she grew up in an environment where her mom was always frantic. She grew up in an environment where like her mom was always, everything has to be done. And it's like we mirror that until we
Yeah.
break that patterning, right? And we were chatting about this and she's just like, "Oh my God, I never really realized that." Right? And so for so many of us when it comes to the nervous system piece, we've got a whole heap of unprocessed emotions that are stuck in Pandora's box. And we go, oh, no, don't like that emotion. And in it goes. And we squash it. And we squash and we squash and we squash. And so that essentially is what dysregulates the nervous system, dysregulates our
Yeah.
hormones, stops our gut from working. And it's not a case of just sitting and doing breath work for 2 minutes a day. We have to be getting into, okay, what's dysregulating the nervous system? What happened to you? Ultimately, what has shaped who you are today, and working with those pieces as opposed to I'm going to sit on a mountain and meditate for five
Yeah.
hours it's like,
Yeah.
okay, right, you have a lot of like from my own personal circumstances here, and I love speaking to this because like a lot of us have big abandonment wounds, and for me it was like I was adopted at 6 weeks old. And so for the first 6 weeks of my life, I moved from my birth mom to foster family to my adopted family. And so my nervous system and my brain at 6 weeks old was like, where do we fit in? Oh my God, I need to make sure that I am the golden child, perfect, so that I
Mhm.
don't get left, so that I don't get abandoned again. And so when we speak to the nervous system piece, and this is what I hate, like, and I would also very quite a controversial opinion in terms of talk therapy because like I don't think that we can become very aware of our gunk. We can become very aware of things. But if we haven't actually learned to move the emotion through us, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there. The nervous system
Mhm.
is still looping because the emotion is still going, oh, okay, I've been triggered. Okay, cool. And then if we haven't if we haven't actually allowed ourselves to understand how the body works on a somatic level and how to process our emotions in real time,
Yeah.
then we we're gonna we're gonna lead ourselves into this like hole. Because also as women, we've been told, okay, be the good girl. You have to be the good girl. We're told, sit there and look pretty as a
Yeah.
as a child,
Mhm.
and we're conditioned to be perfect. We're conditioned to do no wrong. And we have to break out of that mold and we have to retrain the nervous system to be able to move into the bad bitch era if we want to really try to like unshackle ourselves from the boxes that we've put ourselves in.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but I feel like meditation doesn't do that. Yes,
Yeah.
meditation's great for regulating us, but if we're coming at it from the place of like, okay, what emotions are housed in my body? How can I release that? How can I have that conversation with someone? And this is what we do in the emotional release work is like we go into a meditative state and it's like, okay, what can you feel in your body? And 9 times out of 10, my clients are like, ooh, I feel like a clenching in my stomach. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. I'm like, okay, this clenching in your stomach, like, if that was an emotion, what would it be? And they're like, oh, it's shame. Oh,
Yeah.
it's fear. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, cool. Is this related to someone in particular, a male or a female? And they're able to track it
Yeah.
to the root where it's like, oh my God, would this happen to me? And I wasn't even aware that this happened to me. And they move the emotion through them. Maybe it's through anger, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's they need to shake the body to let it move. And then their body is lighter, right? And then I'm
Mhm.
always like, okay, how's that feeling in your stomach? They're like, it's gone.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that, like, yes, pooping out parasites is great, but like what happened to our nervous system and how did we get the parasites in the first place? We got parasites in the first place because our nervous system was dysregulated. When our nervous system is dysregulated, we get low stomach acid. And when we have low stomach acid, bacteria and parasites and everything get into the body.
Mm.
And so realistically, it's like we cannot, we cannot do one without the other.
Yeah. You are so speaking my language. And I mean, the somatic and emotional mastery piece of my
Oh,
work, I find is the most transformative and the most powerful. But we are conditioned in our society to think that we create safety by staying in our mind. And this is why people often
yes.
they go through healing and they think talking therapy. But often, these are really smart, intelligent women. They have a great level of awareness. And so talking and there are different styles of therapy, but I'm kind of with you that I
Hmm.
never really had a powerful experience with therapy. But moving into the somatics, moving into the emotional mastery, like, whoa, this is where the game changed for me. And so it sort of ties into this level of control again. We think the good girl conditioning thing maybe isn't control related, but it absolutely is. You're trying to control the way that you're perceived, even by creating an illusion of high performance or really driving for that to be your reality is controlling in some way, like controlling the way people see you, controlling the way that your life works, and that level of control and that tightness, that contraction, what is underneath that. And so, yeah, moving through, I'm going to share a bit about emotion mastery as well from what I see from my side, the way people process their emotions, either the way that you've just shared, which I think so beautifully demonstrates how we can process emotions through us, and we can do it in as quick as 90 seconds.
So
And
quick.
people are shocked of, wait, I've been holding on to this thing for days,
For
months,
years.
years,
Yeah.
decades even. But it's not really the emotion, it's the resistance to the emotion that's been the thing that hurts and been the thing that makes this a really long time. So the things I normally see is either people who emotionally avoid or people who
Mm.
emotionally indulge. And our
Mm.
avoiders, the emotion comes up, they don't want to feel it, so they bring in a layer of resistance to that. And again, we think we can push this away into this dark hole and it never gets seen and it goes nowhere, except it doesn't, because as you say, this can then show up in our bodies in various ways through discomfort, disease, and Gabor Mate has a great book on this as well, where the body says no, where he
Oh,
attributes different physical symptoms to different personality traits and emotional avoidance patterns, if you like.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a great read. But my avoiders, they tend to have suppressed, and the thing that is really challenging for them is their resistance. It's not the
Yeah.
emotion. So we change the relationship they have with the emotion. Or my other people are the emotional indulgers. And now these people are the ones who just keep looping the story of the emotion versus the sensation of the emotion, which doesn't allow it to move through you, but instead continues to reactivate it. So it might be this heartbreak is going on forever, or this thing in my business continues to be challenging me, but it's really because the story is kind of playing on repeat. And even in the conversations you might have with other people, it might be something that there's a part of you who likes to indulge in sharing that piece. But when you
Yes.
learn how to do the emotional mastery to move it through you, this is where you really pull back so much of your power and create so much more space and freedom to be able to see and experience the thing you actually want.
Totally. I remember one of my mentors said to me, she was like, Tia, an emotion lasts between 30 seconds and 7 minutes. I think we are courageous enough to deal with a maximum of 7 minutes of an emotion.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
was like, woof. When
Yeah.
she said that to me, I was like, oh my God, we spend so much of our life running away from stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what's been so interesting for me as well is like when we actually are willing to meet ourselves in the depths of our shadows, in the depths of our darkness, we're opening ourselves up to a spectrum of more positive emotions.
Yeah, that's right.
And we forget that because I also think there's so many women, and I literally was chatting to two clients in the last couple of days, and they're like, I feel numb, Tia. It's like they numb out. It's like they
Mm-hmm.
don't feel too much happiness or they don't go too low. And so they've learned to numb and they've
Yeah.
learned to compose themselves. And so it's like, okay, well, this is why you're not lit up when something good happens in your life. Because you actually haven't met yourself in your sadness, in your grief, in your shame, and unlocked that bigger spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it fascinating because we all want more happiness, better health, more money, more all of the things. But as
Yeah.
soon as the discomfort comes in, as soon as the guilt, the shame, the sadness, the disappointment comes in, we go, whoop, don't want to
Yeah.
feel you. You could
Mm-hmm.
go away. I'm too busy chasing this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, if we take a minute to be present with what's alive in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
things shift. It's like literally before this call, I was having a wobbly. And I was like, oh, and I closed my eyes and I was like, okay, what's going on in my system right now? I was like, okay, I feel tension in my chest. And I was like, oh, okay, let me talk to my inner child. Let me see what she needs. Hey, babe, what do you need? I need a little bit of a cry. I'm not feeling seen, right? And then it's like, okay, hey, let me be with you. And then tears, blah, 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 blah. And now it's like, now I show up and I'm like, my vibe is back.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's
So powerful.
fascinating. It's
Hmm.
so powerful. And I don't think that many people are aware of this when it comes to the health space. I think it's
Yeah.
huge in the self-development world, but when it comes to healing our physical bodies, I don't think a lot of people are doing this work
Mm.
because it's easier to sell a parasite cleanse or to sell a probiotic or a green juice and tell people that this is what's going to fix them.
Yeah.
It's harder sell to get people to be like, hey, babe, you're going to heal you. But we've got to move through the layers of resistancy.
Oh, totally. I mean, so much magic in what you just shared. One thing that I really want to kind of pull the thread on a little bit more is this idea of the paradox of transformation, of where we are only willing to meet our sadness, just this little smidge. We also are capping our capacity to meet our happiness in that same level of capacity. And when you can take those lower vibration frequency emotions off the pedestal, stop imagining that you don't have the capacity to feel them and really experience them as sensations, not stories, and
Yes.
expand that's where you get to expand more into your happiness, your freedom, your safety, your health, all of these
Yes.
gorgeous things that you are
Yes.
leaning into. So, yeah, this just sounds incredible, the work that you're sharing and the impact that's having on women's bodies as well. So,
Totally.
yeah.
I feel like it's the story piece that you said there that I was just like, oh yeah, because like
Mm.
it's like, what are we making it mean about us?
Mhm.
Right? It's like, okay, well, we go into a somatic session, we release a load of stuff. Oh, it must mean that I have all of these issues. Whereas actually, what if we see that the body just wants to express something? And because the brain wants that tangible evidence to be like, yes, okay, well, I've cried, therefore I'm sad. And what am I sad about? I'm sad about blah, 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 blah. Whereas actually, like, how about you just let the body grieve? How about you just hold yourself and let the body move what it needs to move without trying to overanalyze it and find the reason why? And
Yes.
that's then when we get to just become a conduit for an experience, as
Mm.
opposed to these layers of resistancy where we go into the mind and we overthink and we're like, oh. And
Yeah.
I loved that part where you just said, like, don't go into the story, because
Yeah.
that's what throws us off.
That's when you're in the indulging space versus the
Yeah.
processing space. But yeah, I think it's really powerful. As you say, people tend to go back into their mind because that's where they think they're safe. And then, I've sort of wrote on my Instagram the other day, changed it. I'm the mindset coach that gets you out of your mind. If you want to work on your mindset, get out of your
Yeah.
mind. And this is why I'm working on mindset on 5 levels, because just the cognitive mental space, that's the part that really gives you the smallest shifts. And I
Totally.
know if you're here, you're listening to this podcast, you're in mine or Tia's world, you're already going to be of a level of intelligence where,
Yes.
that is, it's got you this far. It's not what gets you to your next level. So yeah, open up and allow yourself to experience your healing through different avenues is really where you can find
Totally.
so much shifting. And also, I
Yeah.
love what you were sharing in this is that some women, we are in the mind space and then we're thinking, okay, well, I need the probiotics, I need to do this parasite cleanse, I need to do, and they've done all the things, all the diets, all of the supplements, all the protocols, but it still feels like their body is at war with them. Can you share more for like where these women can get started on their healing journey?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's really, if I can say one thing, it's really like bringing it back to basics. It's really because oftentimes, like, yes, I mean, we sometimes do need those detox protocols because they give us peace of mind, right?
Mm.
Because and what I often find is that the protocols and the test results actually calm down someone's nervous system.
Yeah.
100%. I'm just like, is it actually the herbs and the detoxing, or is it the fact that you've gone, oh, okay, I finally know what's going on and I have a plan
Yeah.
to get out of it from the physical aspect of things, right?
Mhm.
Um, so realistically, like we want to be looking at where we can get started is I'm going to probably come at it from two lenses, from like the scientific piece and like that aspect of things, and then the more somatic piece. So from the lens of like the somatic piece, I'd really be looking at like taking time to just figure out where in your life you're really out of balance, right? In terms of, okay, are you showing up with high achieving, people pleasing tendencies? Are you putting everybody else before you? And I feel like as women, this is the biggest piece of the puzzle. And can we actually learn to set boundaries? Can we actually say no and let that be a full sentence? Where can we start to become aware of these moments where we're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'm going to say yeah, even though I don't want to? Because I feel like when we start to do that, we start to pull back our power. And when we think about it from like the spiritual aspect of things as well, is like our gut is the seat of our power, right? It's that's the solar plexus. From the yogic philosophy, it's like it's our core essence. And if we're constantly giving our power away and we're not actually being like, actually, what do I want to do? What's going to serve me? Then your gut's going to be out of balance. No matter what, how well you eat, right?
Yeah.
Because we're constantly in this state of self-abandonment betrayal.
Yeah.
Where are we betraying ourselves? If we betray ourselves, our body's going to betray us. Like
Mm.
literally. I remember saying this to clients the other day in Chill Pill and my Somatics stress management membership. And I was just like, your body will betray you until you stop betraying yourself. So where are we actually betraying ourselves and not showing up for the life that we actually want to have? Where are we settling? Where do we actually need to look and be like, oh, maybe I need a new job. Maybe I need something different so that it feels like a yes in the body where we can expand instead of, I'm thinking about like I have a picture in my head. I'm quite a visual person. I have a picture in my head of me like several years ago and I was hunched over my laptop and I was on the phone and I had my hand and my notebook here and I was, like somatically the body is so closed and in
Yeah.
protective mode. Like where can we start to like open up to life again?
Yeah.
And then in terms of, and I'm happy to speak to if you think that any of your listeners would be interested in like even just like the nutrition stuff or just the toxin piece, because these are also very real things as well.
Yeah.
Um, very real things that we're exposed to in terms of toxicity. Do you want me to chat through these kind of areas as well, or what
Yeah.
do you
I
feel?
think that
Yeah.
would be really powerful.
Yeah, so I mean, we're constantly one of the biggest things that we see as well in our practice is, toxicity, right? We've got a nervous system that's out of balance, which we've talked about, but then we've got a body that's actually toxic. So the physical body is full of um, potentially heavy metals. Mold is another really big one. And I cannot stress this piece enough to any of my chronic illness girlies that are dealing with autoimmune diseases or any of these sorts of things. I had a client that had been back and forth. She had like joint pain, she had fibromyalgia, she had all of these things and she was having neurological issues as well. And the doctors just put her on so many different things. We ran the labs and she had so much mold in her body. Like she had been in a moldy environment and her immune system was suppressed and we inhale it into our system and then it houses itself in our body because mold loves
Right.
to grow in moist, warm environments, and we are the perfect host for that. And like very, like the gut, it's not just IBS, like, the gut and the brain are connected. So if we've got brain fog, if we've got anxiety, if we're dealing with, forgetfulness, lack of productivity, low energy, if we're dealing with skin issues, if we're dealing with joint pain, like if we're dealing with infertility, if we're dealing with vaginal infections and all of these things, everything stems back to the gut. And it stems back to the toxicity piece, which is, okay, are we dealing with specific overgrowths in the body? Is there a candida overgrowth, which is an overgrowth of yeast in the body? Are there parasites? Have we got SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? How well is the immune system functioning? Because 80% of your immune system resides in your gut. So for all
Yeah.
the autoimmune girls out there, it's like, whoa, okay, let's work on that piece of the puzzle. Like what's happening there? And so this is why it's really important, and this is why, once a year for preventative methods, because there's also so much scientific evidence out there that like if our gut is imbalanced, we have more likely chance of getting Alzheimer's and dementia and all of these things. And so we have to be looking at the gut microbiome as well as in a very scientific lens. And this is what my team are wizards on. So instead of me spending decades learning about this, I was like, let me hire some experts.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
so, yeah, so they are well versed in functional nutrition and functional medicine lab testing, where it's like, what's happening in the body? Why are we not able to, like, why do we feel like shit all the time? Oh, like for me, I just got told, oh, you've just got IBS. I had parasites, I had SIBO, I had candida overgrowth, my immune system was firing on all cylinders, I had leaky gut.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, doing the somatic work is amazing, but also it's like, I need to be able to cleanse this out of my body and repair this part of my body too. So working with both of those angles, and like I literally, the best investment of my life has been like functional medicine labs and like understanding the scientific piece as well of the
Yeah.
body. While working with the emotional piece as well, because that's just a game changer. Because if we don't obviously heal that piece, we're just going to relapse over and over and over and over. Those same
Yeah.
infections are going to keep coming. So we have to be working with our physical body to get toxins out on a daily
Yes, healing the
basis.
symptoms and healing at the root. I love that. What you shared about mold, I'm sat here thinking of when I've been living in hot climates, in
Yeah.
rainy season, in moldy spaces, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Mhm.
And it makes so much sense, right? When you think about it, but I never thought about mold being inside my body and even the piece on heavy metals as well. Because I've just finished my ayahuasca retreat and we
Mm.
had a very specific diet on that. But following some people are like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to do a heavy metals cleanse. And I'm like, why do you have heavy metals in your body? And
Totally.
even Grace Beverly, We Are Tala influencer and business owner, she was sharing about how she was in America setting up her store over there. And she went to buy this protein bar, and the woman in the store was like, "You do know that's got a load of heavy metals in, like, don't eat that." And she looked at the label and she's like, "Is this even legal?" And I think different places will have different standards as to what
Yeah.
goes into the food. But can you tell me a little bit more about that, of how we get these metals in our body?
Yeah, so we actually don't like really dive into the heavy metal piece as much. We dive
Mhm.
more into like the poop.
Okay.
So we poop test and we find all of those pieces as part of our puzzle. But we're also dealing like, we're also dealing with constantly being exposed to toxins.
Mm.
Because, I think there was a study that said that like the average woman puts like 168 chemicals on her body a day. Isn't
Yikes.
that insane? It's like through shampoos and perfumes and all of these things, and like the body then is absorbing all of that, and then our liver is going, "Oh my God, how am I going to get rid of this?" And we're also getting things like heavy metals in like our water, right? So
Mhm.
for those of us, if we're drinking tap water, we're starting to seep into there's heavy metals in that and the pipes that start to rust and that goes into our water and then we're drinking it and we think we're being healthy and but we don't like also this can also be a huge topic and it can be quite daunting for a lot of people because and I want to speak to this piece as well because oftentimes we can become obsessed with being really clean in
Yeah.
in our diet and our life and that also can be very detrimental.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
personally became a freak for having to, yeah. for having to, I was like a gluten-free vegan and I was like, okay, well, I can't have any of this. And oh my God, I know. And I put myself in a tizzy and it dysregulated my
Yeah,
nervous system even more.
exactly. Yeah,
Right. And so
yeah.
there's this balance that we have to find where, yeah, okay, over the last 5 years, I've very slowly been changing to more natural products. And I
Mhm.
don't really wear perfume anymore. And I have natural deodorant, but there's still things that like I will still have, where it's like, okay, you have to pick your battles with these sorts of things. Otherwise, this is what drives people into eating disorders. This is
Mhm.
what drives people into completely frying their nervous system. And like I've
Yeah.
spoken to so many women who are like, Tia, I'm doing everything right. I
I think probably a lot of women can relate to that piece of I'm doing everything right. Why isn't this happening? So I think you've frozen again, but I'm sure you'll come back online soon. And yeah, I totally agree. I think there is a balance to be had
have a lost you.
in how much how much you want to control this. And again, that can be a pattern of control that then we just
Yes.
redirect into something else that can be another unhealthy manifestation of the same thing that doesn't necessarily cause you to expand and to heal, but it just redirects it to somewhere else. So I like that you mentioned that as well. I
Yeah.
think we've got you back
Super.
now, so
I keep dropping off. My
it's
my
okay.
Wi-Fi keeps switching to some other random Wi-Fi. I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
no.
Yeah, well, to finish off, I wanted to share because obviously we've talked a lot about the healing part, but I want to learn a bit more about the healed part, about the women who come into your world and who go through this process, and that must require and result in quite big identity shifts as well. So, what are some of the things that you see in this process of how women navigate this journey and what it's kind of like on the other side for them too?
Oh my God, like it's so delicious watching women move through this piece, because
Mhm.
they essentially become someone completely new. Like they
Yeah,
go from like I had a client, God help her, who was like rushed to the ER because she couldn't poop for 5 days. To then finally, like after she healed, she was like, I suddenly have so much more vitality and energy and this pizzazz for life. And she was like, I'm
yeah,
gonna quit my job and go travel the world for a year. Right? And it's just like, man, like because we worked so much as well on the who she was being and what she actually wanted her life to look like. It's like, yeah, we cleansed things out from her body, but we also pulled her into this new era of like, who is that healed version of you? How does she move? How does
yeah,
she show up? What does she actually want to do? And I love that piece as well. And like I've also had clients that like come through the space and end up calling in the love of their life.
yeah,
They
that's right.
used to be in like toxic relationships. And
Hmm.
so that led into like toxic patterns. And then they come through and we work towards, okay, let's try and rebuild the security within yourself first, rebuild your identity, rebuild your safety within yourself. And then like clients of mine are being like, oh my God, I've just met a really secure man. And
Yes,
like, I've been wanting this for years. And it's
yeah,
like,
because they become the
isn't it
match for
insane?
it.
You become
Yeah,
a match. You
yeah.
literally, you shape shift. You become someone completely new because
Hmm.
when you've got your health, you've got your vitality. And as soon as you've got your vitality, like everything else, all these possibilities start opening.
Yeah,
So I feel like when you're sick, you have one focal point is trying to heal. And as soon as you've come out of that, you're just like, oh my God, the world's my oyster.
yeah,
And it's so
totally.
exciting.
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. And yeah, we just see the journey of healing. It's like you're always worth it. And the things you get to experience on the other side of it are just way bigger than maybe even sign up to. People come to you, they think that you're healing them with their gut. And then they're like, oh my God, I just met my dream man. My business is exploding. I'm doing all these things
Literally.
because yeah, you become the frequency match for all those things and you become the frequency match for your healthy body. So I just love
Totally.
this so much. I know there's going to be so many people who are just going to want to stay connected with you and come and play in your world. So can you let us know where to find you and what proximity is like
Yeah.
in working with you?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me on the gram at TMR underscore and co or at TMR.com. So that's TIAMAHER. And we have Metamorphosis, which is our group healing program, which blends the science and the somatics. And we do all the juicy lab testing. And then we also dive into the somatic piece on the who we're being. And then we also have our space chill pill, which is really for the high achievers, the ones that really want to dive into the stress management piece and start to heal that space as well. And then I've got one-on-one as well. So they're kind of my core offerings. Yeah, and I would love to connect with anyone because this work is truly changing lives, and I'm so here for it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure if you're listening to this, you might be thinking of a few people who probably need to hear this episode. So don't keep it to yourself. Share it with the people that you love. If you have some good insights around this episode and you want to share it to your stories and tag us, we always love to see that and appreciate it. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to either of us directly, please do it. Go give Tia a follow and yeah, jump into this magical work that she is sharing. And thank you so much for being here, Tia. I have loved this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, my love.
Yes. So, if you are listening and you're walking away from this episode feeling cracked open, more connected to your body, and ready to stop outsourcing your healing, then this episode has done its job, and I'm very happy. So, huge thank you for Tia for bringing her truth, her science meets somatics magic, and the fierce reminders that your gut knows your body is not the problem, it is the portal, it is the communicator. So take a moment to follow the podcast, leave us a 5-star review, and share it with the people who need to hear this message the most. Your words, your shares, your energy, it all helps us to grow and reach more women who are ready to lead from within. And if you're not already, come and hang out with us on Instagram. And I want to share with you as well a upcoming program that I have called Power Over Patterns. This is about mastering the unseen cycles that run your results. So you can check out the show notes for more on that and more ways to dive into my world too. So until next time, honeys, honor your gut, trust your body, and keep doing the inner work that changes everything. We'll see you on the next episode.